All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Up and In Show. We have a little different look. I'm not on my purple couch, but I am in my shop. My last ones, I have not been in the shop, but I have a special guest with me, somebody who has a very busy lifestyle. So I appreciate your time. Lacey Jane Brown, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely excited to be here.
Yeah. Well, I've gotten to know you a little bit through Abby, Abby Alonso, my producer, business partner, head of media here at Cards and Culture, kind of connected us. So I'm grateful for that. But it looks like you do a little bit of everything in the sports world. It looks like you're a former athlete. You come from a sports family. I did some digging on you and stuff like that. But why don't you take a minute and just kind of introduce yourself and let us know who you are, what you do, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you said, I'm Lacey. I'm originally from Kansas, grew up on a farm actually. Come from an athlete family. Sports was always something that my family was involved with. My dad kind of really pushed it, was my biggest supporter. And yeah, I mean, in Kansas, I don't know if you've been there, but there's not a whole lot to do.
I have not been there. I have
Yeah,
not been there, but I would love to go someday.
I don't know if you would love to go, but yeah, there's not a whole lot to do. It's just really watching sports, drinking, and that's about it, to be completely honest. So sports is like very, very important. That's why Chiefs fans are like very, very loyal and dedicated there because man, that's all they grew up and doing out in Kansas City. But so yeah, so from there, went to Kansas State after college. I worked in the corporate world. I worked at Nike headquarters for a little bit out in Oregon. Got laid off during COVID. So I just started making videos on TikTok. I was producing about 4 to 5 videos every single day, just covering really sports stories. I tried to like highlight different things in sports that was like really highlighting the athlete and what they were doing off the field rather than what they were doing on the field. So I was doing that. That was my life. Like I didn't do anything else. Like I wouldn't go out. I had no life whatsoever. And then it was 2 seasons ago, so 2 football seasons ago, I told my management team, I was like, hey, I want to break a world record. I want to break this Guinness World Record by going to 32 NFL home games in 73 days. And they were like, okay, but like you don't really have the funds to do that. And I was like, we'll think about that later.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, isn't that
And
your job? Get me some funds. Let's go.
I know, right? Right. And so my whole idea around this was so whenever I was in high school, my little nephew, he was 13 months old then, but he was diagnosed with cancer and he's been battling cancer on and off. And now he's 13 years old. So he's been battling cancer for quite a while now. So that really just kind of taught me, you know what, life is too short. You really never know when it's going to be your last day or like what you're going to be going through. And so he wasn't able to attend games at all because his immune system is really low. So the whole reason why I did that was so that I could produce kind of a movie at the end and get items for him so that he could virtually be there with me at the games. I never really, that wasn't the idea that I shared on social media. In fact, like people on social media would never know that story because I didn't want to really advertise that was my reason. Like that was kind of more of a personal reason and a goal of mine. Just because I try to keep everything, my personal life kind of off of social media. I don't really want people in that business.
Yeah,
Yeah, especially my family.
absolutely.
So yeah, and that just kind of really opened the doors for me. I think after that, I was able to work with Sports Illustrated for the Super Bowl, interviewing athletes, which was a lot of fun. And yeah, and then I was in NFL commercials. I've been in NFL commercials for the last 2 years, which has also been really fun. So kind of that adventure and just saying, you know what, I don't have funds to do this, but I'm gonna find a way to do this. Just really kind of set up my career.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I mean, it's pretty impressive. I mean, just to, like I said, I did a little bit of digging, but you kind of land on your profile. You get it pretty quickly about what you do, how you do it, and that kind of stuff. So I think it's pretty cool that. And then I read an article too in a Kansas City, paper or something covered you, and that's where you talked a little bit about your nephew. and
Yeah.
your purpose behind everything you do. Of course, the phone rings while we're doing a Zoom right now. Um, but I think that was the coolest part to me was, people see the end product, and that's where it's interesting. You say you don't share it on social media. People just see you for what they see, and they make their own assumptions when they get on their page. But obviously there's bigger purpose. There's more, more designed intent behind those things. So I think that's really cool. And as a collector and somebody that has a collectible shop, I saw you picking up some stuff at the Super Bowl, like the confetti into a bag and everything. And I thought that was so cool. So is that one of the things that you were kind of like gathering for your nephew, or things like that you're going to give him and kind of collect for him?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That was one of them. And I actually collected enough to give like every one of my siblings, because I have four siblings. Three siblings. I don't know why I said four. I have three siblings.
You're the fourth. You're the fourth.
So
Well, it's four total.
very,
Four total.
yeah, yeah, right. So very, very large family kind of. And yeah, so they were all diehard Chiefs fans. So that was just like a dream in itself. Like I was just to be at the Super Bowl, my first Super Bowl to ever attend.
So
That was the one. So it was just a crazy opportunity and I loved it. And I was at this year's Super Bowl too, which was also just crazy.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Sounds like your journey's been incredible, and I'm looking forward to diving in some more. So, I like to start where everything started as for you as a person. You've talked about your siblings a few times. I read in the article that you guys were a big sports family growing up. So, talk to me about your relationship with your family, your siblings specifically. How did that kind of shape your love for sports and kind of again set you up for this type of career or lifestyle that you're kind of living right now?
yeah, yeah. So my siblings, I have two really, really older siblings. They're 12 years older than me.
Oh, nice.
So really when I was a kid, I was probably in middle school and my sister was playing volleyball at Texas Tech, and I would be going to just all of her games, like every single one. And even my brother didn't play, my oldest brother didn't play football in college, but I was kind of I used the simile how I was kind of like how Jason Tatum is with his little kid. That's kind of how I was with my brother with his like little football team in high school. I was just like the kid that was always around.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So that's kind of what it was like growing up. And we always watched sports, like every single Kansas team. My family was just sports was just constantly on, like ESPN, really any sports network was on, and every single game day it was just like a family thing. Like we all just got down and watched TV together and watched games, every single game. Didn't matter what day it was on, didn't matter what
Yeah.
time. My dad was always on his chair with cracked a cold one and he's ready to watch.
I can relate to that. I grew up in Jersey, and we would watch the Yankees every single night. And my dad, I'd run downstairs and get him a Coors Light. So I can definitely relate to that before every Yankee game. I feel that for sure. That's really cool. And I think
Yeah.
it speaks volumes to how you grow up and the things that you're passionate about and things like that. So definitely
Yeah.
makes sense for you. That's cool. But you didn't. So you played sports in high school, college. I've seen on your Instagram that you're doing all kinds of sprints and things like that. Like, what kind of athlete were you?
Yes, yes, yes. So whenever I was in high school, I ended up, so basketball was my favorite sport, but I ended up having a compound fracture in my leg.
Mm.
So the bone popped out of my leg.
Mm.
So I couldn't do contact sports anymore, which kind of sucked because my sister obviously was a D1 athlete. So then I focused on track and like one state and all that jazz. So like to this day, like obviously I still do like 400 and 800, kind of like things like that. But running really isn't a thing that I'm passionate about. Like even, yeah, it's not really that fun. But yeah, I do sprints. Like that's how I work out is I do sprints,
Yeah.
train things like that. But I did have injuries, which kind of set me back, unfortunately.
Yeah, yeah. Well, talk to me a little bit about that. Obviously, if you're coming from a sports family, you have this, these hopes, these dreams, things like that. If you don't mind, how did the injury happen? And then like maybe talk about like at that young age, that's got to be kind of a tough life lesson, right? And to kind of bounce back from that, and then to try to like to kind of fall into track and still find something that you could, make the most out of it.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. So I was playing club basketball. I just did it like year round. So it was actually summer. I was playing, I was a middle schooler and I was playing with seniors in high school. So I was playing with like an older group,
Yeah, yeah.
just traveling, like it was a travel team. And my thing was I was really quick. So I was someone that was able to get up and down the court. I was like someone that was on defense, like all over the floor, like just I
Yeah,
was that person.
yeah, yeah.
I was very scrappy. So how the courts were set up, there was like a divider in between like six courts. And I ended up sprinting down the court. I jumped up to try to block a shot, and my leg landed on a divider. And right away, I remember my dad's voice being like, "Get up, you're fine." And so literally I got up and like the game was going back on the other side of the court. Like no one was really noticing me because I didn't make a scene. I just got up. And
Did you
then
see
my
the bone
coach
coming out of your leg like already? Like, or no?
no, no, because I got up and I was like, man, I can't feel my leg. Like, what's going on? And my coach came over there like immediately, him, and then my teammates were all like just
Yeah,
like they saw a ghost.
yeah.
And my coach was covering my eyes. And the first thing that I asked, I was like, will I be able to walk again? Will
Oh my God.
will I
Yeah,
because
no, that's real. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So then I had an ambulance came and like everyone was carrying me out and it was just like I was shocked and my parents weren't there at the time. My parents they both work so they weren't able to really go to any travel things that I did.
Yeah.
So they ended up quickly coming. It was like 3 hours away and I went into surgery right
Oh,
away.
wow. Well, that's absolutely that's horrendous. I'm sorry that you went through that, but I mean, it's good for you for, I mean, you would never know, looking at the videos of you running nowadays and doing things pretty impressively. And obviously you said you won state. So that journey must have been pretty difficult coming back from that. I struggled with a lot of injuries. I played baseball and had a ton of injuries in my career. So I know the mindset kind of behind, injuries and that kind of stuff. But I mean, even at a young age, that must have been really tough on you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that there was always comparison that, hey, she's going to be just like her sister, like she's going to play volleyball and just be like insane. So me going into high school and like I couldn't even play volleyball was like, who
Uh,
is she?
Right. No, that's
And
got to be an identity like switch. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah.
you kind of like had this idea your whole life. So how did you come across track and just be like, well, this is my only option. This is what I'm going to do.
Yeah, yeah. So when I was in middle school, like I was very like I was good at track because I just did like all the sports and
Yeah.
like I would break school records, things like that. So I was like, well, track is it is what it is. But I was always a sprinter. So when I was in high school, that's when a coach put me in the 800 and the first time I ran it, I ended up breaking the school record. So it was kind of like one of those things where he was like, okay, this is your
Yeah.
race.
This works. Yeah. Let's
Um,
go.
I know. And it to me, track is all just kind of like a mental type of game with a lot of sports, but it's kind of you're just really depending on yourself with that race. So it's all in the head space. It was just kind of my sport to tell myself that, hey, I obviously can't do really one of the more exciting sports, volleyball or basketball. So I'm going to dedicate my time and be quote unquote like good, I guess, at track. And so I just really focused on that and it did have its ups and downs for sure. But it was fun. It was rewarding in the end. And my sister would always come back to games and she would be decked out and stuff. Like she would have pictures of me on her shirt and like Lacey Jane written on it. Like
Awesome.
she was just, yeah, she was my biggest fan, just kind of like how I was for her whenever she was playing volleyball.
That's
So
really cool. No, no, no. I love that. That's super important. So, I mean, I'd imagine that, I'm just thinking my show and kind of what I do with this show is try to highlight people and how they've their mindset and how they've become successful. So I think it's interesting to hear your story and your journey a little bit of, transitioning into track almost by default and having such success with it, right? And a little bit that's kind of your career nowadays. You're this creator, that you're this influencer, however you want to label yourself. You're this sports personality that you almost went into by default because you unfortunately got laid off during hard times, and stuff like that. So talk to me about that mindset. Like, I mean, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but do you think that learning from that injury early in your life and doing the things that you did to overcome it kind of set you up for later in life when you face that kind of adversity to set you up where you are now?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I think that I was always someone that wasn't really like the coolest kid too. So I was someone that everything that I did, I always just really did it for myself and try to be the best that I could be for myself. And that's how I really do things to this day. Like I don't like to compare myself to other people. I just compare myself to myself, like what I can be doing better and things like that. So obviously when the whole thing happened with Nike, like I had a college degree and yet I was working, I was babysitting dogs, I
Yeah.
was Uber driving, I was Instacarting, like I had
Yeah.
this college degree that was not being used whatsoever, like making no money. But I really just believed in myself and kind of knew that, hey, this is gonna take off. I still need to be working on it. I had like, oh man, I had probably like only 18,000 followers on TikTok for like a year.
Wow.
So, yeah, I was just like, no one's really even seeing my stuff. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing, to be honest. But absolutely, it was just kind of like believing in myself when, you'll have people that really don't believe in you, family, friends, which is kind of also hard. But I think that I'm my own biggest critic at the end of the day. So everything that I do, I'm the person that's gonna always be challenging myself and be the toughest on me.
No, that's a really cool perspective. I think that's really cool. I think it's pretty impressive too that you just like you said, like one of my first thoughts, as somebody looking in from the outside, is it's got to be hard. There's a lot of noise on social media. There's a lot of opinions. There's a lot of people. So that comparison kind of, I think, comes natural to a lot of people. Just to, especially in your world where it's like ultra competitive, right? Influencers, brand deals, sponsors, all these different things. There's so much attention out there for you not to compare yourself and to, one of the things I heard that stuck with me is you compete with yourself. You're really just looking to better yourself. And I think, a lot of athletes struggle with that sometimes, right? Because we are, quick to compare stats and numbers and stuff like that. But really, it's about your own journey as an athlete, just trying to get better each and every day. So I think that's super cool for people to hear. And again, when people land on your page, it might not be the first thing they think of, but for you to share that insight, I think is pretty cool too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think for me too, football season, my whole page is covered with football stuff that I kind of just like anyone would, but I kind of get a little burnt out. I mean, the two
Imagine.
seasons ago, yeah, 2 seasons ago, I went to 41 NFL games, which is crazy. I was on in 4 months, I traveled with 70 flights.
Oh
Four
my
months,
God.
70 flights. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Um, yeah. Last season I went to almost 30 NFL games and about 60 flights.
Oh my
So
God.
yeah, so people, I just like I get a little burnt out when it comes to the off season that now it's kind of like I'm seeing my family, I'm seeing my friends, and I absolutely need to get better at posting sports content regularly. But kind of what I try to do is I really want my page to be me doing sports content, but also me as a person. Like I want people to mostly like see kind of what I'm doing because I find that stuff interesting. Like if I don't know what someone's really like kind of off the camera and what they're doing day to day, it's just kind of hard for me to really relate to someone. So I try to keep my page, I'll be at the beach, so you might see a bikini picture. I
Yeah.
might be at a sports game, so you'll see a picture of me at the game. Like I just try to do different things at the off season to keep my page just something on there.
Yeah, while we're on that, what do you want people to think of when they land on your page? If somebody just came across your content or you were tagged in a picture and somebody was like, "Ooh, this I'm curious about this girl." What do you want their first immediate thoughts to be when they land there?
Ooh, that's a good question, actually. Oh, I would say I want them to think, oh, she's someone that knows sports and she also is passionate about fitness, like likes to work out, likes to take care of herself, kind of mixture of those two. Like she knows sports and also like you can tell she works out.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I like that. No, it's interesting. And I always think about it, right? Like I run a couple businesses and things like that. So brand, personal brand, like the message, marketing, all of that, is interesting to me. And I'm big into like human psychology, behavioral, that kind of stuff. So I just always like to see people that are successful, that have grown a following, that have kind of attracted a lot of attention, what their mindset is and how they do it and things like that. So again, I give you a lot of props for doing things the way you do in an ultra competitive world and stuff. So, and I kind of got that. Like I said, when I landed on your page, it was quick to see that you're into sports. You know what you're talking about. Obviously, a good looking person, and that's why I was like, I
Thank
almost want
you.
to kick the ball to you to be like, tell me about you and what you want to send, and like how you see yourself, because I can tell what I looked at on the camera on the phone and what I see through a lens. But I always think that it's pretty cool when something's congruent with someone what they're trying to put out to the world. So pretty
Yeah.
impressed and cool. And again, I like the message that you're sending out there. I know one of the things I connect with Abby on and something that I want to do and why I hired her with business is women in sports and kind of highlighting, people's personalities. I think Abby has an incredible personality for sports, obviously not hard to look at as well. So again, I think these kinds of things blend really well in that sports media world and that kind of stuff. So I think you're setting a good example and doing really cool stuff that's kind of groundbreaking. So, and I read too that the Guinness Book of World Records thing was your idea, right? You just creatively thought of that and was like, all right, I'm going
Oh
to
yeah.
break the record.
Oh yeah. Everything that I think of is like everything that I do is all by myself. Like logistics, I set it all up. I do everything. I
That's
do have a management team, but I come up with all the ideas and they basically are my support people. Basically how I look at it is they work for me. So whatever I want to do, they gotta support.
That's the way. I mean, if it's not that way, then you're not hiring the right people, right?
Right?
If they think that you work for them, then it's not the right situation. And I think, a
Yeah.
lot of athletes and entertainers get that confused because they want the status of saying, I have an agent, I have management, I have representation. But it's like, no, you're paying them a fee. They work for you. Like, don't forget that and get that twisted. So I think
Yeah.
smart. No, absolutely. And again, I just, there's a possibility that people could be like, oh, she has people doing this, running the skits, writing the script for her, and she's just the pretty face that kind of like is doing it or whatever. So that's why when I read that article, I was like, oh, good for her. This is awesome. Like this, and then you obviously peel the layers back. You keep reading, you see some stuff, and now that I've talked to you for 20 minutes or so, you understand where the passion comes from, the authenticity, and that's probably why you're winning on these platforms, and people know that, feel that, and get that, and it's why they're gravitating towards you. So again,
Yeah.
I'm big on authenticity and telling your story the right way. So I think that's cool.
Yeah. No, it is.
Um,
I do everything by myself. So even like editing, posting, like when I would be posting during games, people are like, "How are you getting this out so quick?" And I was like, "I just
you know how
am
to do
doing
it.
it so quick." Like I view when I go into games, like I think a lot of people view it as like, "Oh, she's just like getting smashed at these games and stuff." And it's like, no. I view this as a
Working.
job. Like
Yeah,
this is a
working.
career.
Yeah. Well, while we're on that, so like, I think it's always interesting and a lot of, I interview entrepreneurs, I interview influencers, entertainers. And so one of the things that I like to talk about is how do you monetize that, right? The viral moment's important and it's good for numbers, engagement, and followers. But then how do you make a career out of that? How do you actually make money off that? And you don't have to get into the details, but what's something you've learned to be like, cool, this is how I'm going to leverage this into that?
Yeah, yeah. So I've just kind of really noticed that this sounds really bad, but the more like short and like not very like smart rounded video I do, the better it performs. So I think people view me on social media sometimes as like the blonde, not smart girl. But the thing is I'm using my brain. So I know they think of me as that. So I'm gonna be posting videos when I'm at football games that are simple, short, me not looking the brightest, but it's going to get views off of that, which
Yeah.
I know isn't the best way to highlight myself, but it's also a way that I can get views. And then that turns into brands noticing me, brands seeing me and being like, oh, she goes to a lot of NFL games. Let's hook her up. Let's do a brand deal with some jerseys. Let's hook her up with Amazon Prime, and like they have Thursday Night Football and things like that. So I think it's just really like looking at your analytics and seeing what performs well and what doesn't perform well. And for me, that's kind of the videos that perform well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's just knowing who you are, knowing brand, right? And you're saying I'm leveraging something that's been given to me. And if you're going to make these assumptions, I'm going to get ahead of you, and I'm actually going to leverage that on you. So,
Mhm.
Gary Vaynerchuk's one of the best, I think, in the business, in marketing and stuff. And he's like, dude, good-looking people have things to their advantage. Use it, right? And that's all you're kind of doing is saying, look, I know how you're going to think already. I'm not going to try to change your mind. I'm going to keep it simple, and I'm going to make money off of your guys' opinion. So good for you. Like I think that's awesome. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. I think that you definitely get taken advantage in some ways, because I think when people actually like get to know me, they're like, "Oh, you're like different than kind of like what I thought," which not different in certain ways, but I think that people just assume that a female in sports sometimes is a female that's like maybe not really truly in sports because they like sports, but in sports because they're trying to maybe get with someone. There's this negative connotation, which
Yeah.
isn't the truth for majority of the women in sports that I've met. Like I've met so many incredible women in sports, and that is not the case. But for some reason, people sometimes think that. And so it's kind of getting past that bias and what they think too.
Yeah, I think that's human nature. I think people are just going to make their assumptions and have their thoughts, and there's going to be insecurities and fears and projections, right? And so that's
Mhm.
something you're going to have to navigate. But while we're on that, I mean, how hard is that? Because I'd imagine that there's athletes sliding into your DMs, reaching out, doing different things, right? So how do you balance the attention that you get from people that you may actually be interested, whether they were an athlete or not, right? But then also maintaining some sort of professionalism or a standard that you might want to keep that separates the two. Is that something you've battled with or had to experience throughout your career?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I have to be very, very, very careful. Just because I'm someone that I'm very cautious with who I hang out in general. And so I'm not someone that is out at the bars, like hooking up with people. I've never done that in my life, and I don't plan to do that. So the same thing goes. I think a lot of times athletes, these high status athletes say like, "Oh, let me fly you out." And I'm like, "No.
Get out of here.
No,
Athletes do that?
uh,
No.
no, because the thing is word gets around. I'm best friends with a lot of NFL players, and the stuff they have told me that I don't need to know, I don't want my name to be out like that because they've told me way too much stuff, and I'm just not about that life.
Yeah.
So yeah, very, very cautious, and I really have to be like talking to someone and FaceTiming them on the regular for me to even like see them.
No, I think that makes sense. And like I said, there's in an ultra competitive world, all it takes is one wrong thing, one screenshot, one reputational, like mishap that costs you a sponsorship, costs you a job, costs you a hosting event, right? All these different things, because there's somebody else that's probably doing it in a different way that somebody's looking for. So good for you to be aware of that. Good for you to align with the right people to understand what you need to understand and understand the game. So, but I think that's real, right? A lot of younger reporters, and I know it too. I've seen it. I've had teammates myself. We've all experienced some sort of version of it. So I always like to just hear everybody's perspective and thoughts on it. And obviously, like I said, you don't get to the point that you're at without facing that kind of stuff, without battling it and figuring out your own way to make it successful. So good for you for
Yeah.
being smart and thinking about all that kind of stuff. It is important.
Oh yeah. No, it is. It
Yeah.
really is. Because then they also like won't really respect you, which
Nice.
is that's something that I want people to respect me first.
Yep.
Absolutely. So I don't play games like that.
You can't. That's you really can't. And again, speaking from when you're again, I played a sport where we played every single day for 180, 190 days straight. Like, you're going to talk about everything. And so if there's somebody up in your DMs, if somebody's doing something, everybody's going to know about it. You're sitting in a locker room for 12 to 14 hours with the boys. That kind of stuff's going to happen, you know? So, yeah, I think, again, being smart, being intelligent, you know, picking and choosing your places, knowing the right people and that kind of stuff is really important in your industry. And then there's always people that are looking to shoot you down and try to do, you know, take spots and things like that, just like anything else. So, you know, it's ultra important. And, you know, again, good for you. It's important. I'm probably gonna let you get out of here soon. You know, we have 8 minutes left on this Zoom because I don't know how Zoom works and all that stuff with the 40 minutes. But give me, if you had a word of advice for, you know, a younger girl that's looking to either grow a following on a platform, you know, or, you know, look to work in sports, what would be some advice that you have through your experiences?
Yeah. So I would say don't listen to the noise,
Mm,
compete with yourself. The only person that you're competing with in any day, every single day you have, is yourself. It's not this girl, it's not this girl, it's not this boy. This girl may get more opportunities because of who her parents are. That's not something that should affect you. Like, still just work for yourself and improve yourself every single day, and you're going to end up out on top at the end.
no, I
That's what I
love
would
it.
say.
It's simple, but no, it's absolutely right. No, and I'm serious. And I think, again, people look at you and are going to value what you say. So being able to clip that and just keep it simple for people is really important. I really do think that. So, and I know,
Thank
again,
you.
how competitive your industry is, how hard it is. You know, again, I'm kind of building a media company with Abby. I've given her a lot of control and that kind of stuff. So we talk about a lot of that stuff that you probably face every day, that she faces every day. And that's where, you know, again, she asked me a lot of questions just from my perspective as an athlete, as a business owner, and the way that men see the world and different people see the world. So, all that kind of stuff I think goes a long way. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Well, what's next for you? You know, you've kind of gone viral. You've done these things, set a world record. You are now have been hosting events for Super Bowl, interviewing athletes. You have brand deals with some of the biggest names in the world, honestly. What's next for you? What kind of career do you see yourself doing? Where are you going to be in the next 3, 5 years? What can we look forward to?
Yeah, so my end goal is I want my own show, my own sports show. That's really my end goal. I think right now I'm still trying to build up my platform more and more so that whenever I do end up building my show, it's already has a decent audience. But yeah, I mean, you'll see me stepping in the college football season, can't speak, college football season this season, which is exciting because I haven't done college football stuff at all. So
Nice.
I've kind of really overdid the whole NFL thing the last 2 seasons. So I'm stepping into some college football games this year, which I'm super excited about.
So you're going to come down to Baton Rouge, Abby said, huh? We're going to make that happen. You guys are going to bring content
Yes,
down here. I mean,
yes,
LSU is an okay place to focus on some college football. I would say
right.
above average. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
hey,
absolutely. Yeah,
that's good.
I'll definitely be reaching out to y'all.
All
You
right,
guys
good.
will have to show me around.
Exactly. Yeah. No, we can definitely do that. I think it would be a fun time. We don't have a ton to offer in Baton Rouge, but football is probably the move that we can do. You know, and LSU football is pretty decent. Like I said, so and we have some good connections, you know, in the athletic office and stuff like that. So I think if you're covering some stuff, I think there'll be some doors that'll open up and it'll be really cool. So I definitely would love to explore that. I know Abby has kind of expressed that as well. And I saw that you're doing some baseball stuff too, huh? So baseball is on the horizon as well.
Oh man. So last
You're like,
season,
never mind. It's too long. The games are too long, huh? It's boring and slow.
no, so last season I was trying to do the record kind of tour thing where I go to every single MLB stadium. And it just got to a point where I just finished NFL and I went to 40 games and I was like, I cannot
Yeah,
be
I get
going to
it.
more games right now.
I get it.
Um, but yeah, no, I enjoy baseball. It's a good time. It's definitely not my favorite sport, I will say that. Kind of, but I enjoy it. It's a good sport. I understand it.
That's good. You're not offending me
So
either. So baseball is not my favorite sport. I love it. I played it, but basketball is my first love. So you're not offending me by saying that. So I get it. And it's long and slow. I played it my whole life. And there's times I'm like, I wanted to gouge my eyes out. I'm like, dude, this game is taking forever for no reason. So I get it. I get it.
yeah, my attention span is just like not there.
No, I get
So
Yeah. Lacey, thank you so much. I appreciate this. This was awesome to catch up with you, get to meet you.
yes.
And like I said, hopefully we get to meet in person. You can come down to Baton Rouge and link up with Abby and we can all do something together because like I said, we don't have a ton to offer down here, but LSU football would probably be a good experience for you, especially if you're trying to dip your toe in the college football scene a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. I'm down.
Well, good stuff. Well, hope you have a great day and keep killing it on social media.
You too. Thank you. I'm excited to be watching all your stuff now. So
Thank you. Appreciate it.